Well,
quick, say something weird and out of context so I can make it the cold open. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Extremely Lowbudget Podcast. Initially, we were going to do a Home Alone 5-part marathon, but Christmas is canceled this year because Dalton and Chris are monsters that didn't show up.
Yes.
So instead, we sat down to watch the holiday 2-parter of Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
Only one of them takes place at Christmas.
Contradictory to what the internet will tell you.
No, the internet will tell you that only one of them takes place at Christmas.
No, I swear I saw that both of them take place during Christmas, but then only the first one did.
Well, maybe the second one does, but it's just...
I swear somewhere in the second movie there's probably a calendar on the wall with the month of December opened, and everyone's like, boom.
Oh, I think it actually... Christmas. The more I think about it, I think it does take place at Christmas.
Why?
I mean, the entire movie is inside of the building,
right,
so
yeah.
You can't see too much.
What's his name? The guy from the first movie who could snowplowed comes back, and
right.
I think the reason he's back is because of Christmas.
He's back for some, war. His, platoon from war is all getting together.
Oh.
So he's there to see all of his old buddies. So I have no idea what it technically takes place during, but it's kind of unimportant.
Lincoln's birthday.
You're right.
Yeah.
This week, if you haven't already figured it out, we've got the core 3 back again. Just 2 movies to talk about today?
Yes. Gremlins 1 starts out with the...
Chinatown.
Yes, the dad goes to Chinatown. I don't know any of the characters' names other than Billy and Gizmo. And
yeah, that's the important one.
Yeah, and Spike or whatever. But, the inventor dad goes to Chinatown and meets up with Old Man Chinaman, who gives him...
Old Man Chinaman?
Old Man Chinaman, who's like... I don't want your goofy toothpaste toolkit invention. Get out of my shop. But then the son of the old man, or the grandson, whoever he is...
Grandson would make sense.
Grandson is like...
Let's say the kid at 80.
Yeah. He's one of those rich old people that's got a 30-year-old wife when he's 80. Or a 20-year-old wife. Daddy. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So then his super young son is like, I'll hook you up, old dad, with here's a gremlin, a gizmo, here's a mogwai, as they're known. So he pays for it, and then he's like, sweet, I'm going to go give this to my son for Christmas. And then we see Billy, who's our main character, working at the bank. An old woman, cranky woman, comes in and is like...
Is not really a big character in the movie.
No, she isn't.
I think she would be, but...
She gets enough screen time dedicated to her.
Yeah.
She gets the greatest... She is the greatest ending to any character in the movie. She comes in and is like, hey, not Charlie Brewster, I hate your dog. He's a menace to my snowman, my porcelain snowman. And so she wants to murder the dog, and she's like, we're going to kill him.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Painfully.
Yeah, and that's her whole thing. She's like, I'm going to catch your dog and murder him in front of you. And so he's like, well, that's no good. And then the dog harasses her a little bit, and she's like, yep, there's my target. And so then, then Billy goes home. And this might be when he gets Gizmo, when his dad comes home and he's like, hey, son, I've got you a present. Here's this little animal that I've stuffed and wrapped in a box, and he gives it to him, and it's Gizmo, and he's like, here are the rules. Don't get him wet, don't feed him after midnight, and don't expose him to sunlight.
You said that out of order.
Yeah, not necessarily in that order.
Don't expose him to sunlight is rule number 1.
Yeah.
Any light, but especially sunlight, will kill him.
Right, yes. Not bright light. Dim seems to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not bright light. Definitely not sunlight. 2 is don't get them wet with water, as we deduced.
Yeah.
Everything else is fine.
Yeah.
Pure liquid water is the only
thing. If you pour orange juice on a gremlin, we have decided that it will not multiply.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you don't feed them after midnight.
Yes, those are the 3 rules. And he's like, yeah, simple enough. But then Corey Feldman comes over, and he's like, check this out, and pours water all over Gizmo on accident. And then Gizmo multiplies into like 6 gremlins or something like that.
Yeah.
5 including Gizmo.
Oh.
In the first one,
Yes.
there's
5.
yes, and then they duplicate another one at the school later.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So then they're like, "Oh man, that's incredible. They multiply with water."
Yeah, I always hate those scenes.
They're
when the
pretty
gremlins are,
disgusting.
like, down, like,
Es-
screeching in pain.
Especially-
Balls are flying out of there.
It gets pretty rough in Gremlins 2, and you watch like the
Yeah.
actual like the gremlins having like the spores pop out of their back. That's
Right.
disgusting. But yeah, he's like, "Oh, that's incredible." So he takes it to his science teacher, and he's like, "Check this out." It's not even his science teacher either, because Billy's like a high schooler or older, but he goes to the elementary school.
Right.
He goes to the elementary school science teacher, and he's like, "Dude, check this out." And
Is this an elementary school science teacher's gonna know?
Yeah.
What to do?
So
it's
they duplicate another gremlin or a mogwai that the science teacher is gonna hang on to overnight. But he's also like the most irresponsible science teacher ever, because like not only does he keep the thing in the classroom with him while all the students are there the next day, but like that night he leaves his food just on his table and then just leaves. And he's got an exposed brain of some sort just sitting on the table.
We haven't determined what it is.
They never address it, but it looks like it's supposed to be a real brain because it looks all like slimy and wet.
and then
and
in
then-
one of the scenes, there's like a chunk taken out.
Yeah,
of
the
it.
gremlin
Right.
clearly took a bite out of it at one point, but he like just leaves it on the table. And then of course the gremlin eats whatever he left on the table after midnight. Meanwhile, all the little mogwais back at Billy's house trick him into feeding them fried chicken after midnight.
Right.
Except for Gizmo, who's like, I'm full. I don't want to eat right now.
Gizmo's a good boy.
Yeah.
He
Gizmo
is.
knows the rules.
Mhm.
Except for when he doesn't want to stay in a cabinet in the sequel.
Yeah, he does get a little ornery.
Yeah. so he's like, yeah, he feeds them and then they all turn into like these big spores. But also at one point the gremlins like tie up his dog and just like leave it hanging outside in the Christmas lights. And I'm very confident that they actually tied that dog up and
I
strung
am
him
too.
up out
No,
there.
it wasn't moving at all.
I promise you that's the real dog.
I don't think it was. It wasn't moving.
I'm pretty sure
No,
it was.
It wasn't moving.
You can see his dog junk. They're not going to take the time to add that onto a stuffed dog.
You don't think they would?
I don't think they would.
It looks totally like it's fake.
I'm
It's not
pretty
moving
sure.
at all. It looks good, but the dog doesn't move or squirm at all.
I'm pretty sure that's a real dog.
I don't
That they
think
strung
would
up
do
in the
that.
lights.
I don't think they would do that.
I kind of hope they would,
Why?
so that we can call PETA and make it a big conspiracy.
He's not gonna do shit. He just sucks.
Yeah. So then the gremlins, all the mogwais turn into like cocoons, and they're getting ready to become gremlins, and the science teacher is murdered at school the next day when he's like, oh, they're metamorphosizing into something better or something worse. And then like the gremlin hatches and kills the guy, and Billy shows up just in time to find him dead and get attacked by the gremlin, who runs away and gets away. Meanwhile, at Billy's house, all four, I guess. I think there's 5.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
pretty
there's-
sure that there were 5.
I think there's 5 plus Gizmo.
Yeah, that's what I said.
5. Yes, 5 plus Gizmo, and then there's a 6th one at the science lab.
That
Okay.
they duplicate.
Okay, yeah. So then, like, all 5 of them hatch at the mom's house, at Billy's house, and they all attack the mom, which is probably the most iconic scene in the movie. You think?
In the first movie, probably.
Yeah. So they like all the gremlins attack her when she's making
No.
No.
Not the most iconic.
You think it's Snow White?
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely this. Because it's like she's making gingerbread cookies, and that "Do You Hear What I Hear" song is playing on the radio or whatever, and all the gremlins start attacking her, and she has to kill them all.
That looks pretty real.
I don't.
Oh, they're talking about the dog right now. I'm fairly confident it's a real dog strung
Can't
up.
see his junk.
You can see his little dog junk sticking out.
I don't think. I mean, the gremlins look pretty good, so I'm convinced that they could make a real looking dog and hang him by the tree lights.
I don't know. But the mom has to kill all the gremlins. There's some pretty brutal gremlin kills. She blends one up with the blender, and she explodes one in the microwave. Does she kill any of the others?
Yeah. So the first one she kills, she just stabs with a knife, and then she puts the one in the blender, and then she does the one in the microwave, and I think that's all she kills because the next one she goes to, she thinks is in the stocking, and she starts slashing the stocking.
Right,
but it turns out to be in the Christmas tree.
That one's a toy robot, yeah, in the stocking, and then it's in the Christmas tree. And Spike, is that what he's called, right? Or Stripe?
Stripe's this one.
Okay, Stripe gets away. He gets away. He's the leader of the new Gremlins. He gets away, and the one inside the school, does he also get away? I feel like we don't check back in with him.
We did go a little out of order.
Did we?
Yeah, so what happens was, before the scene with the mom, Billy goes and visits the teacher.
Right, and the teacher's dead.
Yeah, so the teacher dies right there. And the gremlin is running around the school, and remember, Charlie runs to the nurse's office. Billy runs to the nurse's office, and the gremlin throws a bunch of stuff at him.
Right.
And bolts through the ventilation system, so that's that gremlin escaping.
Right, but I don't know, do we check back in with him at all in the movie?
Well, the problem with this movie is they didn't define the gremlins. It was like, you had Stripe, and then you had gremlins.
Right.
And so, you probably see him at one point. It's fair to assume that he was in the Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, whatever one it was. But, yeah, you don't actually see. I mean, they don't, no one's like, that's the one from the school. So. Yeah.
And then, so Stripe is he's a real smart guy, so he goes down to the YMCA, and they chase him there, and they're trying to stop him. And he jumps into the swimming pool, because he knows if he gets wet, he'll multiply, and he's inside the swimming pool, and he just multiplies, into, hundreds of them. And then that, kicks off the finale for the movie, where the gremlins are, going around the town, just destroying everything, killing everyone. Cars are flipping and exploding, and the police are incompetent, and the gremlins all go to the bar, and they're all getting drunk with Billy's girlfriend. And
they go to Crazy Bitch Lady, and she's
right.
She sees them all singing out front. They're singing Christmas carols and freaking her out, and so she goes to sit on her little electronic chair that takes her up and down the stairs, but one of the gremlins has screwed with it, so it goes hyperspeed and launches her out the upstairs window, and she flies out into the street and dies, which was the most satisfying part of the movie because she was awful.
Yeah, it's the best kill of the movie for sure. It's pretty brutal. Yeah, she gets launched out the window. There's this guy who we've been seeing. I don't remember what his name is, but we've seen him at the bar drunk earlier in the movie, and he walks home, and he knows about the Gremlins from World War II. Good old WWII. He knows about the Gremlins, and he's like, oh, they're evil. And then in this movie, it's very clearly implied that he is murdered by the Gremlins as they hijack his snowplow and drive it through his house and run him over with it. So him and his wife definitely die in this first movie, but then they're not dead in the next movie. And then the Gremlins all go to a movie theater, and they all watch Snow White, and they're all singing along to it, and then Billy comes in.
Yeah, but you're missing a part.
Which part?
The Santa speech.
Alright, oh yes, the greatest part of the movie. So, I don't know when exactly this comes in. I think it's right after Billy rescues his girlfriend from the bar. They take refuge in the destroyed bank, and she's I hate Christmas. Do you want to know why? Because the worst things happen at Christmas. And she gives this, like, horribly depressing but, like, very seriously played up speech about how her dad went missing on Christmas, and, like, a week later she went to, like, light a fire because they were cold, and she started to smell something in the chimney. And so then the firemen came and knocked down the chimney and pulled the dad's corpse out. And it turned out that on Christmas, he tried to climb down as Santa Claus to surprise them, and he fell and snapped his neck and got stuck inside the chimney and died. So he had been missing, but he'd actually been inside the chimney for the full week, just dead. And she gives this, like, super depressing speech about it, and she's like, that's why I hate Christmas. It doesn't serve any purpose in this story at all. I don't know why it's in here.
So, yeah, I don't either, but I'm looking through the fun facts for this movie to try and settle this dog thing. I was hoping someone was going to be like, yes, they used a real dog.
Oh, I was trying to do that too.
Yeah, but
No.
I did come across one that said the studio did not want that scene in the movie, the Santa scene, because they couldn't tell if it was supposed to be sad or funny. And the director was like, no, fuck you, we're keeping this in the movie for some reason.
But what is it? Is it supposed to be sad or is it supposed to be funny?
I've got no idea.
It's pretty depressing.
The studio was like, this is just too ambiguous. Like, we can't have this in the movie. Like, no one knows what the hell this is supposed to be about. And he was like, nope, keep it in there.
Yeah,
So weird.
I don't know why it's in here. Anyways, they all trap the gremlins inside the movie theater and they set it on fire, blow it up. All the gremlins are dead except for Stripe.
Who conveniently ran out of popcorn and had to go find some. But when he couldn't find popcorn, he saw a sign across the street that said candy, which interested him as well. So he went across the street to get some candy, and then the theater blew up. So
Yes, and he goes to the most badass candy store in the world because it's a candy / toy / weapons /
home goods
like plant store.
Yeah, gardening and whatnot.
It's the only place you can go to find like good old robot toys and actual chainsaws. Like, so Stripe goes there. And they follow him in. Billy and Gizmo and the girl whose name I don't remember follow him in. And they're like, there's like a chase scene or whatever where Stripe is attacking Billy as he's trying to kill Stripe. And then he gets the upper hand. Stripe gets the upper hand when he shoots Billy with like this mini crossbow. And then Gizmo comes in riding on this car and attacks Stripe, and Stripe runs off to a fountain where Gizmo like pulls a curtain and the light pours into the room and like melts Stripe, which is pretty gruesome effects. I don't know how they did that.
Yeah.
But like his actual face melts and then his skull melts underneath it, and he like falls onto the ground and dies in a big puddle, and then the movie ends. Oh, the old man actually comes back and he's like, I'm taking Gizmo home. And then the movie ends.
Yeah, that's Gremlins.
So what works, what doesn't?
I mean, so much of this movie works. This is a great movie. The one thing that I don't like is that I don't know what it is, genre-wise. Because every time I watch it, as a kid when I watched it, I was like, this is like a family comedy movie.
Yeah.
But then when you get older and you start picking up on the like weird dark shit that's going on in this movie, like the Santa story and like actual
the mom
humans
making quick work of the 3 gremlins.
right,
Yeah.
slaughtering them in the kitchen, and all these like actual people like dying and being tortured by the gremlins.
You know, originally the gremlins were supposed to eat the family dog and cut off the mom's head and throw it down the stairs.
Oh,
I didn't like that too much.
That would have settled it,
So.
I think.
Yeah, that would have made it pretty clear if it was supposed to be a comedy or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually like labeled as a comedy fantasy horror movie.
I would put this one as like an actual horror movie. It's played up as legitimate horror in this movie for the most part. Like the Gremlins themselves are doing goofy stuff, but then you have like Freddy Krueger, who's also like goofy and cracking jokes while murdering people, and no one considers those movies comedies. So
Right.
Right.
I would consider this to actually be a straight up horror movie.
I would agree with that. I think the second one clearly diverges.
Yeah, the second movie is a comedy. This movie is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directed by Joe Dante. Both Gremlins were directed by Joe Dante, who did The Burbs.
And composer was Jerry Goldsmith,
yes.
Jerry Goldsmith. Creature effects and designs by Chris Wallace. He did a great job.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially for, what was it, 84?
Yeah,
Yeah,
1984.
Pretty fantastic for 84. And there's some scenes that look dated, but the majority of them look pretty good.
Yeah, it's very... I think this movie's really impressive with the special effects.
Yeah.
I don't think... What's his name? Chris Wallace. I don't think he returned for Gremlins 2.
Which one was Chris Wallace?
He was the creature design.
No, it's a different guy in the next one.
Yeah. Do you know who?
It's the guy you follow on Instagram.
Oh, Rick Baker.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Rick Baker. I mean, you can tell the difference between the first one and the second one with the design.
Derek,
but it's not terrible.
Hit us with the fun fact, who did Rick Baker play in 1976?
Oh, he was King Kong.
He was King Kong.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was checking his IMDb and it says he's credited for the 2005 Kong, but I have no idea what he did in there. But yes,
He's probably
yeah.
He was what?
He was the pilot.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I just pulled it up as soon as you said that.
He was King Kong.
He was King Kong.
Yes.
Yeah, but the cast for this movie, the first Gremlins, wasn't super huge. They had a couple people that were, famous.
Mm-hmm. This main kid isn't in a lot, I don't think.
No, he's not. He's pretty much like the Gremlins kid, basically.
Yeah. The girl is in, I feel like she's fairly famous.
About the best you had, but no, she wasn't really either. She also, stopped acting a really long time ago. But you had Corey Feldman as...
Yeah.
He wasn't, huge in this movie.
He was a Christmas tree at one point, so it's awesome.
Right. Dick Miller played the old guy that got hit by his tractor.
Yeah, what else has he been in? Because I really like that guy.
He's like that guy in a lot of movies. He's the pawn shop owner in The Terminator, the guy that sells him the gun.
Okay.
He was the garbage man in The Burbs.
Right.
He's just kind of background characters for a lot of things.
Yeah, he's pretty likable though. Even in this movie, they could have played him up as he's the crazy old drunk that everyone hates, but and he's so reckless or whatever. But no, he's pretty responsible when they're you're pretty drunk, you shouldn't be driving. And he's you're right, I'm gonna go walk home and do the right thing here. And then he's not mean or whatever when he gets himself killed. When the Gremlins come kill him, he's just hanging out trying to watch TV.
And then you had Jonathan Banks, who played Deputy Brent, who also plays the old geezer in Breaking Bad.
I have to interrupt for a second because I found something that Rick Baker worked on.
What's that?
It's called Flesh Gordon.
Uh-oh. Flesh Gordon.
He worked on the porn parody
of
Flash Gordon.
Nice.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway.
I'm glad I know that now.
It was in 74.
Nice. So that's gotta be some good stuff.
This is pre-King Kong Dong.
Frank Welker, who's the voice of Fred Jones and a lot of Scooby-Doo's. He played Stripe, Mogwai, and Gremlins. And then, for some reason, Howie Mandel as Gizmo.
You can't tell.
No, you can't.
No.
So weird.
Yeah, I even listened for it, and I'm still can't tell.
Is there anything you guys think didn't work about this movie?
Only some of the dated effects. There's some, there was, the scene where they're all running down the street, and they're, little clay figures.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's not great, but it's,
It's it's a weird bit of stop motion in the middle of a movie that's primarily animatronics and puppets, so it is.
But obviously
noticeable.
they can't make 100 animatronic.
Yeah,
things,
well, I think they do in the next one, but
right.
There's a lot of them in the next one.
I think that my least favorite shot was the shot where Gizmo's in the store and he's running on all fours, and it just looks so goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that only lasts like literally 5 seconds. So I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, but
Probably even less.
Yeah.
it was still like an awkward shot. But
There's the one cool scene though when you have, it's either Stripe or Gizmo runs down the aisle, and then like in the same shot, Billy chases him down right afterward, and it's cool because it's like like that. Oh, that was a real effect that I just watched.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was actually on set. They have a lot of cool stuff like that in here.
And then the only other thing I think works against this movie is the pacing of it. It takes like, I would be willing to bet that maybe it takes like an hour for the Gremlins to actually become Gremlins. Like, for them to eat after midnight. Because it's like there's a lot of build up as like, what are these things? Let's take them to the science teacher and see if he can examine it. And like spending all the time with the Gremlins before they actually start getting into their mayhem.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's like a big problem because I think the payoff's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that part of the reason I like the second one so much is because it gets to it real quick. Gremlins are kind of just out and about doing it right away.
It was probably the 30-minute mark in the second one.
I mean, cut it in half, so.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any specific favorite Gremlins from this movie?
From this one, I was like Stripe. Thought he was cool.
The Flash.
You like the Flash?
The first Flash.
Barry Allen. The next one. Who's the other Flash? Oh, see if Dalton was here, he could actually provide some insight.
I think the other one's Louis C.K.
Wally West. Yeah, Louis C.K.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I would say those are the big ones.
I
think
well, obviously.
the caroling ones.
They're funny.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was just thought Stripe was cool because I liked the stripe on his head. That was nice. He was always my favorite design. I like the one in the second one too, the Mohawk, even though he's hardly in the movie.
The second one.
The in Gremlins 2, the black and white one with the Mohawk,
Yeah.
which was like your little stripe for that movie.
Right.
That's fun.
So Alex, this was your first time watching it. What piddle rating do you give it?
Enough.
Enough?
You piddled enough. Yeah, I'd say I piddled for Gremlins 1.
Agreed.
Enough to justify watching it again. Not like a favorite all-time movie, but like, watch it again next year. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a
There
good.
you go.
Yeah, I think Gremlins 1 and 2 work much better as Christmas movies than most other Christmas movies because most Christmas movies are not good.
Yeah.
Elf?
I know, but Elf is overplayed.
No way.
Like,
dude.
they play that movie even when it's not Christmas, and I can't
It's 'cause
for the
it's
life of me
amazing.
understand why.
Elf is so good.
You just don't watch it when it's on.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah.
But, like, then there was, like, middle school when I'd have to watch it, like, 6 times because every single teacher in the entire school was like, time to watch Elf!
PG.
Yeah, and I was like, do we all have to watch the same movie, or can't we pick up where the last class left off? Because, like, we're all watching it, right? We're all roughly around the same spot when class ends, but no, I have to watch the first hour of that movie 1,000 times. I don't want to watch that movie anymore. But Gremlins, I'm all for Gremlins.
So, Gremlins and Elf are 2 good Christmas movies.
Exactly.
And Home Alone,
Scrooged.
1 and 2.
And that's the 5 good ones.
Yep.
I say It's a Wonderful Life is really...
See, I've never
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, you'd have to see
Miracle's not horrible, but I'm also like not going out of my way to watch it.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I feel like most of the Christmas shit that I watch every year is just like TV specials.
Sure.
Yeah.
I watch like The Simpsons Christmas. Well, the very first episode of The Simpsons was their Christmas one. I watch that one every year. Chowder.
Chowder's Christmas.
Yeah.
The original Grinch movie, the short one, is tolerable.
And the Jim Carrey. I have
Not
no
the Jim
issues.
Carrey
I have
one.
no issues with the Jim Carrey
I still love
one.
the Jim Carrey one.
I know.
Wrong.
Me too.
That movie sucks.
No.
Yes.
We had it. So we had it on maybe VHS. My mom just straight threw it away one year.
Because I told her to. I hated that movie, and she was like, "Do we want to keep this one?" I was like, "Nope."
And she just threw it away, and I was pissed because I wanted to watch it.
Mm.
But luckily, it's on Netflix, boys and girls.
Has the new one come out yet?
Yeah.
Are you gonna watch that one?
Tune in next episode for the Grinch Marathon.
I don't want to watch it.
I don't want to watch it.
Have you seen all the terrible advertising they've been doing for it?
The one where it's like, they're as green as my Christmas nuts or whatever he says. Have you seen that one?
It's just really bad advertising for it.
It's
They're
like
really
in
pushing
Germany.
it. They're trying to make it like kind of like a Minions advertising thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I don't know. I think the difference is, like, the Minions, like, when the first Despicable Me came out, it was like, oh, look at these wacky little Tic Tacs. And then, like, for this one, they're like, alright, we're going to introduce this character, like, right away and make him ridiculous. Because then the Minions didn't age well, right?
No, I hate the Minions.
But, yeah, for the Grinch, they're just, like, trying to throw it in there, like, as if they just came out with, like, a Minions, like, solo movie thing, whatever they did.
Yeah, I've seen, like, the Ancestry.com commercials with the Grinch, where he's like, did you know that, Max? I'm part Canadian. I'm like, who cares? Skip.
I'm half Cherokee Indian.
Right. I'm like, this is horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, that movie seems like cancer.
So we will not be watching it.
No.
Scratch that last part.
Yeah. Can you believe?
But we will still be doing the Fast and the Furious marathon and the Transformers, whatever else we were going to do. We'll all still be doing those tomorrow.
Exactly. We did the
We're actually going to be live streaming and watching all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah.
How many of those? There's like 8 of them now, right?
What?
Fate was the last one.
Fast and Furious?
Yeah.
I thought there was like 9.
I think there's 8. I think the 9th is coming out.
Yeah. I'm
that
pretty
might
sure
make sense.
the Fate of the Furious was the last one.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of them.
I haven't either. I've seen part of the 3rd one at like an airplane field or whatever, and it was real bad.
Oh, maybe... I don't know. I think I've seen parts of certain ones.
Yeah,
I've
I've seen like
seen
the ending of
clips
the
of
3rd
some.
one, and it was real rough.
Anyway.
Can you imagine how long that marathon would be? 8 movies. Assuming each of them are about 2 hours, that's like
16 hours.
at least 16 hours of watching those. That'd be fucking painful.
I know. It's like almost as painful as sitting down to watch 5 Home Alone movies in one sitting.
Well, we didn't, so... But you know what we did watch was Gremlins 2. Derek, tell us about it.
The story for Gremlins 2
The self-aware Gremlins.
is
Big time.
the Deadpool of Gremlins movies.
Minus the fourth wall breaks.
No, so much so that even Bugs Bunny in the end credits will pop up on screen and be like, "Why are you still watching this? Don't you have a home to get to?" And he'll shoo you
I
off.
thought that was Daffy Duck.
It was.
Maybe
Oh,
they
you're
both-
right. It
yeah,
is Daffy
I was
Duck.
pretty sure it was Daffy.
It is Daffy Duck, who will pop up and be like, "Get out of here, you silly goose!" And then like the "That's all, folks" at the very, very end is like the Porky Pig pops up and is like, "That's all, folks," and then Daffy like pulls him behind the screen and is like, "I'm doing the outro today." Like,
Wasn't like it was like the 50th anniversary or something?
I have no idea what the deal was, but this movie starts out with a minute and a half of Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny rather than Gremlins, and it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I don't.
turned to Kyle, I was like, this isn't Gremlins.
I know. It's like you put in the wrong movie at first. You have to sit through it before it finally gets to the title card, and then even then the movie still breaks the fourth wall because halfway through the Gremlins turn the movie off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I guess there are a couple like fourth wall breaks.
yeah, because then there's the guy who's reviewing Gremlins 1, and then the
Yeah.
Gremlins attack him because he gives us a negative
Why?
review.
Yeah, that's why it's so self-aware. Because you get so many things. You get the like movie theater scene. That one
Right.
that he's reviewing the first one. The chick who
The Abe Lincoln,
Abe Lincoln
Holiday,
Right.
Nightmare.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay, so the story is...
It opens with Clamp Industries, which is the corporation.
Oh,
for the
yes, I
movie.
forgot about that.
They're trying to buy out the old man from the first one, the old
Uh-huh.
Chinese man, and they're trying to get his shop so that they can build some like big megaplex there or something.
But, importantly, he has a cough.
Yes.
He does. And he's like, I'm not going to sell out. Sometimes it's harder to agree with oneself than it is to agree with others. And the guy's like, very good words of wisdom. We'll be seeing you in 2 months when you're dead, old man. And they basically just leave him there while Gizmo's watching Rambo on TV
Right.
and getting inspired. And then we cut to like 2 months later, and the
6
man...
weeks.
6 weeks later, and the man
Less than 2 months.
is in
It
fact
was 2
dead.
months.
It said 6 weeks on the thing.
Okay.
The man...
Month and a half.
He does in fact die. Gizmo's on his own. For whatever reason, the grandson isn't back, but the shop's being torn down and Gizmo's on the run. He gets kidnapped by either the clone or the real guy. I'm just going to call him, like, janitor guy, because I don't know what else to call him. Scientist guy or whatever.
Yeah, scientist.
Scientist guy kidnaps him.
Guy.
Well, I'm thinking of, like...
His whole bit was he was, like, a kooky scientist, like, experimenting with genetics, and you were like, yeah, that guy was the janitor, I'm pretty sure.
Because I was thinking of Terminator 2, and he plays, like, the night cop.
Yeah. Still not a janitor.
But it's closer to a janitor than a scientist.
What?
Because you're like there. You're the only one there at night.
You're trying to compare like apples to oranges right now. It's like a cop equals janitor.
But only when they're there at night, and they're the only ones there at night.
Okay, I could see that. Like you see him at night, and you're like, oh, it should be like a janitor. It's either a janitor or a cop.
Right. It's one of the two.
Right.
When they're the only ones.
When there's somebody, when there's somebody patrolling at night, it's either a janitor or a cop.
Always.
So all right, well, you get that.
Okay, so then they build a big tower, and it's the world's best smart tower.
The world's first fully automated building.
Right.
Yes.
What could go wrong?
Absolutely
nothing.
Okay. Not much, really.
And so then...
Except for, the revolving door spinning 200 miles an hour.
That was probably the worst of it.
Yeah, well, the revolving door and the fact that your office shuts off if you stay stationary for too long. But that was only, like, in it as a joke. But anyways... Billy, and did we ever find out the girl's name?
Kate.
Billy and Kate show up.
You seem unsure that that's the
I
truth.
am unsure that that's the truth.
Yeah, Kate.
Okay. Okay, Billy and Kate show up, and they're like, hey, we moved to New York City, and we're living here now. And then they're like, we're working in this smart tower. And Kate's like the tour guide or something.
Yeah, she's a tour guide,
and Billy is an artist upstairs.
Yeah, he sketches designs for new neighborhoods and buildings and whatnot.
Right, and then
we meet his saucy little redhead boss.
We do meet his saucy little redhead boss. Yeah, we meet her.
She's like such an annoying cartoon character to me.
She's not in the movie that much.
I know, but every time she was on there listening to her voice, she had like that thick fake New York accent, and she was driving me crazy the whole time.
Yeah, we meet their uptight boss or whatever, who's like the cleaner guy, who's not the main boss who owns the place, but he's like the next up, who gets married to the Gremlin at the end.
Right, the holographic doctor from Voyager.
Yes. Okay, we'll just call him Doctor. We meet Doctor, and then yeah,
here he is on my wall.
He's on Kyle's wall right now.
I took a picture with him.
And then they're like, then he's like, yeah, we got genetics lab upstairs. Billy hears this guy whistling a little tune that's Gizmo's song, and he's like, where'd you hear that?
Not just any guy. Tuco Salamanca of Breaking Bad.
Yeah. And he's like, where'd you hear that song? And he's like, upstairs in the genetics lab, homie. And then and then Billy's like, all right, well, I guess they got Gizmo. And he goes upstairs and does in fact find Gizmo in their science lab. And Count Dooku's running around like, we need these tomatoes to not break and transport. And then, like...
He's more of like, I want diseases. I need malaria.
Yeah.
I need the flu.
And they're like, the flu's on back order. So he, like, takes the receptionist's sneezed-on tissues and he's like, we'll find this flu somehow.
Yeah, I need fresh germs.
Yeah.
Weird.
And so then... Yeah, then Billy, like, gets out of there and puts Gizmo in a desk, which is the scariest scene of the whole movie when Gizmo peeks his little hand up from the desk... or from the drawer that Billy's got him in, right when the main boss walks in, and Billy slams the drawer right on Gizmo's hand, and it got me. It got me good. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, did you hear me audibly gasp when that happened?
I actually jumped when that happened. Yeah.
Gizmo's little hand was out there, and he goes to slam it, and I'm just like, oh no.
I actually jumped when his hand got smushed, and then like he pulls the drawer back, and you see Gizmo's hands all like puffing and throbbing. And then the main boss walks in. This guy is played by someone who I know.
He's from Scrooge.
He's from Scrooge. Yeah, he's the guy when Bill Murray's having like his breakdown, and he's like in the he's in some other stuff. I feel like.
He was the scientist that creates Bane and Batman and Robin.
He's in a RoboCop movie, according to IMDb.
Is he? Really?
I think so.
I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure he's in the second RoboCop, according to IMDb.
We'll find out because I just watched RoboCop and I don't remember him.
Well,
Maybe I do remember.
We'll see. I guess we'll see. Yeah, so the big boss walks in and he's like, hey, I like this Billy kid.
Oh, damn, he wasn't it, but I don't remember who the hell he is.
He's like, I like this Billy kid. And then he's like, something, 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 and he leaves, and then somehow Billy's like, oh, I gotta go on this like dinner date with my boss lady so she can get to know me and try and bang me.
Who's got the most annoying New York accent.
Yeah.
Where's in New York? I can't remember.
It's that redhead girl you dislike.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like the stupidest, most cartoony, annoying New York accent.
Yeah, so she's like, oh, Billy, come with me, we'll get to know each other, and then I'll bang you. Yeah. And he's like, well, I got a girlfriend, but alright, we'll go eat dinner.
He never says that. But she does know, right?
Yeah. He's like, we'll go get dinner, or whatever. And he's like, not really into her. But then, meanwhile, he's like, hey, Kate, you need to go do me a favor and get Gizmo out of here, because he's stuck in my drawer right now, and you need to take him home. Gizmo gets out, and he's, like, running about, because this is what I was saying. He's a little disobedient little boy in this movie.
Yeah.
He gets everyone into some trouble when he gets splashed by water from this, like, janitor who's not doing his job right.
A real janitor.
A real janitor. Yep. And by that we mean police officer. No, it's an actual janitor who's, like, spraying the water fountain.
He's like, he tried to drink it and it blasts him in the face, so he's like, I'm gonna fix this. And every time he does it, it, like, readjusts how far the thing splashes.
Yeah, and Gizmo's, like, trying to get out of the way, but then the like, third time he does it, it hits Gizmo indirectly, but it still hits him.
Right.
Gets him all wet, and then Gizmo pops out, like, 4 little guys.
4. This one's 4.
Yes, you've got Mohawk.
Yes.
You've got
I like
man,
Mohawk.
Grumpy old man.
Don't know who that is.
He's the other, like, black one. He's straight up just like the grumpy one.
I don't remember him.
And his sidekick is like the Dumbo. He's got the 2 big buck teeth.
Yeah.
And then they also have the, like, spastastic autistic gremlin that's, like, bouncing all over the office, doing the, like, Tasmanian devil laugh.
Yeah, the autistic gremlin, like, runs up onto a shelf or whatever, onto, like, a windowsill and starts, like, hand painting. Yeah. Meanwhile, the other gremlins, like, throw Gizmo into the vents and lock him in there.
Right.
And then they all...
Why is it that every gremlin that pops out of Gizmo
is mean?
Just inherently hates Gizmo?
I don't know.
They just know.
It's not like they all hate each other either, because these 3 gremlins that get away, they go and get themselves wet somehow off screen, because then next time we check back in with them, there's like 20 gremlins.
No. Very wrong.
In the food court?
Quite wrong. Yeah, there's only 3 of them. It's the 3. They go and get into the yogurt. That, like, yogurt area. And they're, like, crawling out of the toppings. It's just the 3 of them.
It is only the 3 of them?
Yeah, and when they turn into actual gremlins...
Oh, that's when the sprinkler gets them. When they turn into gremlins.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so...
That's when they reproduce.
Okay, yeah. So then the 3 gremlins are all eating in the food court. Gizmo's locked in the vents, and
Kate brings home
the autistic gremlin, which used to make me so uncomfortable as a kid. Like, the idea that Gizmo could get left there and that one could take his place made me so uncomfortable. It was like in the Santa Claus 3, I could never watch that movie because the idea that his name's Tim Allen, right?
Yeah.
The idea that Tim Allen could get replaced by Jack Frost, but no one would know it, and, like, Tim Allen's kid and his wife would be in love with Jack Frost instead, made me so uncomfortable. I was like, I can't believe that would happen. So that's how the same feeling I felt in this movie, when I was like, this can't be happening. So then they're like, no, this isn't Gizmo. And they figured out, well, Billy figures it out, like, immediately. Because he's like, well, Gizmo's not autistic.
Right.
So then they go...
Well, and then the old guy that was supposed to be dead from the first movie,
yeah,
him
that's
and his
right,
wife, who got plowed down by the tractor, show up, and they're like, oh, we're still alive. That just grazed us.
Yeah. They show back up.
But that dude's got, like, some bad PTSD from the Gremlins.
And he's, like, all messed up by it because he thinks he's, like, delusional and he thinks it was all in his head.
Right.
and his wife isn't very supportive of him either, because she's like, oh, you just gotta remember, it didn't actually happen. He's like hell it did, and I got hit by a tractor that one of them was driving.
Half their entire house got destroyed.
Right.
Yeah. And so then then the two old people, they have to go do their own thing for a while.
Right.
Well, Billy tries to get back into the building, the smart building, to capture the Gremlins.
Well, he goes back in to shut off the water so
right.
that they can't reproduce.
He makes it there, but he doesn't set off the water in time.
Because he gets caught by a janitor.
Yeah, he gets caught by...
Actually, that's
that is a security guard. He gets caught by the security guard, who gets attacked by autistic Gremlin.
And who is the security guard, Derek?
Someone who gets bitten in the nose.
Art from...
Oh, yes, that's
Birds.
right. He is Art.
We also forgot that the Klopek cameo came earlier.
Yeah, he gets fired.
Camera. Yeah,
he gets fired.
One of the Klopeks from the Burbs was in it.
So then, Art is being attacked by autistic Gremlin, and he's trying to catch him, and then he's like, "No, dude, you're on your own." And Billy's like, "What do you mean I'm on my own?" He's like, "You're on your own." Slaps the handcuffs on, in jail. That's not actually the dialogue, but that's essentially what happens, because he arrests Billy because he's like, "You're a terrorist." And then the other Gremlins, the 3 Gremlins, all hatch just in time for Gizmo to find them, and they attack Gizmo.
Yep.
And
then
Billy's in jail.
Yeah, but now the 3 Gremlins start their hijinks. There's only 3 of them.
Yeah, there'd only be 3 of them. No, there is...
Also,
the one that...
autistic one escaped.
Yeah, the autistic one escapes, and then he becomes a Gremlin. Yeah, so then they take over that cooking show? Yeah, does that happen while Billy's in jail?
No, well,
Billy,
he gets out of jail and they're on their way back to the building.
Yeah, he gets out of jail and there's he gets out of jail and he walks past a car of mimes who are also being arrested at the exact same time.
So dumb.
You didn't like that? I thought that was pretty funny.
Why? What was the joke? I didn't get it.
I don't know.
Just, opened up the police van and a bunch of mimes start coming out.
I just thought it was funny that they all 3 crawled out of the car like they were on the rope together, and then one of them whips out the flour out of nowhere and gives it to Billy. I thought it was funny. So then they all go back to the building, and the Gremlins are taking over the cooking show, and the woman's all freaking out.
Billy goes to the control room.
Yeah,
to be like, we have Gremlins about, and then all those guys start
asking the real important questions that I've been wondering ever since the first Gremlins, such as, because it's always midnight somewhere, what happens if you take your Gremlin across the time zone? And it's eating, let's say it's 11 o'clock where you're at, and you take it through a time zone, and now it's 12 o'clock. Will that Gremlin then become a Gremlin, or will it stay as a Mogwai?
Who knows?
And they're all quizzing him, what if he's got something stuck in his teeth, and he just happens to swallow it after midnight, but he didn't eat it after midnight? And Billy's like, yeah, guys, I didn't make the rules. And so then they're all up on him about it, and they don't believe him. They don't believe that there's Gremlins until one of them pops out of this control panel and just kills everybody. Starts killing people, and then they're like, oh, you're right.
Yeah, and then in the cooking show, you meet Long Duck Dong from 16 Candles.
Yeah.
He's this quirky tourist with a whole bunch of cameras and shit.
He doesn't carry cameras. He is the camera.
That's right.
And they all take over the cooking show, and one of them, they just start throwing metal into the microwave, and it catches fire, which is when the automated sprinklers turn on.
And then creates loads of Gremlins.
Yeah, then you have an infinite spawn of Gremlins going about.
Yes.
Also, there's a character in this movie dressed up as Dracula who does a horror show.
Yeah, who's he played by? He's played by someone.
I thought he was the grandpa in the Munsters because
not.
he looks exactly like him.
I think that's what the parody idea was.
It must be.
Is they dress him up to look like
maybe
him.
he just so happens to look like him. But I was like, that looks exactly like Grandpa from the Munsters.
Wasn't his show name something like Grandpa something?
I don't remember.
Whatever,
I don't think they
his
said it. I didn't know if they said it or not.
Yeah, Grandpa Fred, that's what his name was in the movie.
Wait, is it... Okay, I'm gonna look up what
Grandpa Munster.
Was it Grandpa Munster?
That's his name.
I thought, well... I guess they just call him Grandpa.
Who is he? Who is he played by?
He is played by the owner of the movie theater from
Last
Action Hero.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he's like, oh, golden opportunity, and he starts like vlogging it, where he's like, oh, we're just here stuck in this tower with all these gremlins, and Long Duck Dong's his little cameraman.
Is this supposed to be like a Svengoolie thing, where he's like,
pretty
what
much.
was his?
So yeah,
he's
that's
like introducing movies and stuff.
Yeah, they're playing old horror movies. He's like Elvira.
So he's basically like Svengoolie.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what the character was.
I don't know who Svengoolie is.
He's on one of those like old. It's one of the channels that plays like old movies. He's like the guy that introduces the horror movies, or I guess it doesn't just play old movies. They play like old TV Land shows and whatnot.
Yeah. So the gremlins are all multiplying. A few of them make their way up to the science lab.
Yeah, you get the real antics started where they start using the mutation shit and turning themselves into things.
One of them turns himself into like a half vegetable.
Yeah.
Vegetable gremlin.
Yeah, which is weird. One of them turns himself into a bat gremlin. One of them gives himself increased intelligence. And one of them turns himself into a spider. Apparently Stripe turns himself into a spider. Mohawk turns himself into a spider.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's probably the coolest one.
The one that turns into electricity.
Yeah, one of them turns himself into an electric guy who goes around.
And that's I think that's all of the mutated
I think so. And then the smart one is like, well, here you go, sir. If you're going to go places, you're going to need this. And he gives the bat some natural sun resistant stuff. And then the bat like busts out and flies away. Until
behind the bat symbol on the wall.
Does he? Yeah, I didn't notice that. He flies away and gets attacked by the old man from the first movie.
Well, he doesn't get attacked. He just picks the old guy from the first movie to start attacking, and he like slashes his head and shit.
And the old guy's like, "I'm not insane. I was right this whole time," and just dunks him in this cement. And then the gremlin like gets out of the cement and flies up on top of a church where he like freezes into a gargoyle.
Right. Hardens into a
gargoyle
because the cement dries.
Yeah, and then so the guy's like, I was right, and then he goes to like try and break into the big smart tower, but they don't let him yet. And meanwhile, inside, all the other gremlins are running about.
Just tearing the place
up. Gizmo for like the majority of this movie spends the time getting beaten up by different gremlins and like getting photocopied so that his face will get exposed to the bright lights, and then getting like tortured by this one specific gremlin.
I'm pretty sure it's Spike or Mohawk.
Yeah, he somehow gets away from him and then goes and starts his little training montage as we hear like the Rambo quotes start over, and then so he like starts his little training montage for like the majority of the rest of the movie, and meanwhile, Billy and them are like trying to solve it. The electric.
I'm pretty sure this is around the time where the Gremlins tear up Gremlins 2 and stop the movie, and Hulk Hogan's got to force him to put it back on.
Yes, a great Hulk Hogan cameo out of nowhere.
And I love that they did the like joke again where they're like, the Gremlins don't want to air the rest of the movie. All they want to watch is Sleeping Beauty.
Snow White
and the Seven Dwarfs. That's literally the title.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to think of it while I was saying it. I couldn't remember what was what.
Yeah, they turn on Snow White. Yeah, so then Hulk Hogan makes the movie come back on, and they capture the electric gremlin and put him inside of the phone. That'll come in handy later.
Right.
Your main business dude evacuates the building through his secret exit, and they come up with a plan. They're like, the gremlins are not leaving the building until it's nighttime because they don't want to get themselves burned to death. So here's what we'll do. We'll put up a big curtain outside so it looks like it's nighttime.
We'll set the clocks forward.
Clocks forward 3 hours. They'll all head outside. We'll all burn them. So then they're like hatching this master plan. It seemingly works, where all the gremlins start to gather in the lobby. Mohawk is the spider gremlin. He attacks the redhead lady.
Yeah, he catches her in the web.
And
then Kate goes to free her.
And then also gets attacked by him.
Right.
Then Rambo Gizmo kicks out the vent and comes up with this makeshift bow and arrow with this flaming bow and just shoots the spider gremlin and sets him on fire. And then comes down and gets picked up by Billy. And then they go off together. Which is weird because I remembered that being the ending of the first movie. I remembered Spike being on the fountain and Gizmo riding in on the car with the bow and arrow and shooting him, but that did not happen in the first movie.
Nope. I guess the reason I probably associated that with the first movie is because the first movie is way more popular, but that Rambo Gizmo is probably the most iconic version of Gizmo. It's probably got the most action figures made out of it and everything, and whenever you see pictures of Gizmo, he's got the little headband. So that's I associate that with the first movie just because they're both equal to popular to me.
I suppose. And then they get all the gremlins in the lobby, and the gremlins are all singing New York, New York.
They're all about to head out.
Yeah, they're doing this big musical number. And then it starts to storm outside, so they can't let the gremlins go outside. So they're like, the sun's not out.
Have we forgotten about
jeez, I totally forgot that happened.
Wait, what? What'd you say?
The storm outside, so they're like, we can't let the gremlins outside.
Yeah. But did we forget about the gremlin that's dressed up as the lady?
Yeah, I don't remember where that comes in, but at some point before this point, a gremlin that is a female gremlin goes and makes out with the boss guy, the doctor from Voyager, and you think she's inside of this crowd singing New York, New York, because they do a big musical number and she's involved in it. But then you'll find out at the very end of the movie that she actually gets out of there just in time because Billy hatches the master plan where he's like, well, we can't let him out, can we? And they're like, no, because it's storming outside and there's no sunlight. By this point, old man from Gremlins 1's inside helping out.
Right.
And they're like, we're going to blast them with the fire hose. They're all going to start to multiply. They're all going to be wet. And then, so they do it, and then they hold out the phone and they take the line and it releases the electric gremlin down onto the crowd of other gremlins. And because they're all wet, he electrocutes all of them and kills them all, and they all start to melt together.
Right.
Pretty brutal, pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now the day is saved. The military busts in through the doors after failing.
It's just the SWAT team.
Yeah, the SWAT team busts in through the doors after failing to get through two separate revolving doors. They all invade. Hank Schrader kills a gremlin that's already dead. The boss guy from RoboCop slips and falls, but he's also like, I'm a hero. This is perfect. I love this. This is great. This is everything that I've needed it to be. Billy, you're promoted. I'm going to build this town that you drew in your picture. It'll be the perfect, quiet, awesome, quiet place. And it's all a happy ending. And he's like, oh, these little mogwais you got here, we need to merchandise these. Toys, games, whatever else we can get out of them. And it's a big happy ending for the movie. And then it's not a happy ending because the female gremlin is still on the loose.
There was a happy ending. There was a happy ending to be had there.
And she comes and attacks,
molests
the doctor from Voyager.
It was the 90s. It was a different time.
And the movie ends, and then Daffy Duck criticizes you for sticking around through the end credits.
That's Gremlins 2.
That's Gremlins 2. I hated this movie. No, I didn't. But I hated it as a kid. As a kid, I was always like, oh man, Blockbuster doesn't have Gremlins? I have to get Gremlins 2 now? I never wanted to watch this movie, but I just watched it and I really don't know why I didn't like it, because this movie's so much fun.
As a kid, this
was more fun than the first one.
Oh, big time. As a kid, this was the only one I wanted to watch. I didn't care about the first one.
I hated this movie as a kid.
I loved this one. I loved all the distinct new Gremlins,
because
the first one it was just they're all Gremlins, yeah. Right? It's Stripe and the Gremlins, but this one it's you have all these different Gremlins and you can pick out your favorite ones and stuff.
Do you have a favorite in this movie?
Flash
again. It's an old classic, but it always works.
Mine would probably be the smart Gremlin.
You like the
played
smart
by
one?
I believe Felix from The Odd Couple. The old Odd Couple.
I liked the spider.
it just didn't do anything. It like made a web and then it got caught.
I know, but I liked his
cool.
like actual Mogwai design the best when he's all black with the white stripe. I thought that was cool, and then I think the idea of a big spider gremlin's pretty cool.
I think the smart gremlin's the funniest. So
he is the funniest.
He's
like, what is it that we want? Civilization. And he pulls out a gun and just shoots this other gremlin in the head. He goes, "Was that very civilized?" "No, but I did it anyways."
It was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, it's good that they were able to give one of the gremlins lines so they could provide more of the comedic.
Yeah. Oh, and then we forgot there's a scene when, right after the spider gremlin dies, Kate is like...
Oh, right.
One of the guys is like, "You can't give up now. Did Washington give up? Did Lincoln give up?" And she's like, "Don't mention Lincoln. Something horrible happened to me when I was a child. I was 6 years old. My mom made me a peanut butter sandwich. I was in the peanut butter sandwich phase. And I went to the park, and an old man dressed like Lincoln came up to me on Lincoln's birthday."
He looks like Lincoln, except for the trench coat.
Yeah.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Pretty sure she got flashed by good old Abe Lincoln.
And she's been flashed twice by the other gremlins.
And they cut her off and push her out of the...
Yeah, Billy is like, "We don't have time for this right now. We're trying to get on with the movie."
So it's just so self-aware because they take some of the dumb stuff from the first one and they overplay it.
It's perfect.
In a good way.
Yeah, the way I saw it was any joke that landed in the first movie, they were like, let's take that and be self-aware about it. So the whole Snow White, that joke, they brought it back because they were like, the Gremlins only want to watch Snow White, and it was like, oh, remember that joke from the first movie? And then anything that was awkward and weird in the first movie, they brought back, but they knew it was awkward.
You know what would have been the best ending to this movie is if they released the thing, but the windows somehow were tinted or something happened where the smart building had a malfunction, or no, instead of putting up a tarp outside to make them think it was nighttime, if they tinted all the windows on the building somehow, but then they couldn't untint the windows. It was let's just say it was one big window. This is even better. It's one big window. And they're like, how are we going to solve this problem? And then all of a sudden this tree throws a rock straight through the window from inside, and the window shatters, and all of the gremlins melt all at once because the sunlight pours in. And it was Corey Feldman as a tree the full time, and we've just been seeing this one tree constantly throughout the movie in the background of all these shots, but it was Corey Feldman as a tree the full time. That would have been incredible.
Wow, that would have been real weird.
That would have been the greatest.
I feel like that would have fit in the movie, though.
That would have been the greatest thing that had ever happened in a Gremlins movie. He would have invented the Fortnite bush disguise.
He practically did in the first one.
I know.
Because remember, they bumped into the tree and
then it just starts moving. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Alex, I'm most curious to hear your opinion. Did you like the second one more or less than the first?
Yeah, I like the second one more.
More? Yeah. I do too.
The internet hates this movie, as I've discovered.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't know. It's just not very well liked.
I mean, I knew that the IMDb score was lower, and it's probably because the first movie had a little more intelligence to it, I guess is what you'd say. It was a little more sophisticated.
Had a little more charm, maybe.
I think the second one's got more charm.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Gizmo was maybe a little better in the first movie.
Gizmo doesn't do a lot in either movie.
I know, but in the first one, I feel like he had a little more to do. In the second one, he was pretty much locked in a vent for the majority of the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely prefer the second one. The movie, literally from start to stop, is just fun. There's nothing else to say really. It's a fun movie. I like all the humor in it. I like the different gremlins. I can see why people would say it was. It feels like a movie that everyone would be like, that one was not as good as the first.
Yeah, because the first movie.
Because it's goofy and people don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. The first movie is a classic, and this one's the goofy sequel that no one asked for.
Right. I prefer the goofy sequels to things like
RoboCop 3.
No, that you took it a little too far there. RoboCop 2 was the goofy sequel to RoboCop 1, and I liked RoboCop 2 more. And
yeah, but RoboCop 3 had ninjas.
Yeah. And then, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, that's like a comedy movie, and I think that one's awesome. I like that one more than I like the first one. So I guess that's just my kind of thing.
Yeah, I liked this movie. I piddled.
You piddled?
Yeah.
I urinated.
I piddled a lot. What about you?
Urination, yeah.
Urination? Boom. A lot of piddle and some urination. Gremlins
Much more
2.
than what would have happened after 5 Home Alone movies.
I think we still gotta watch them all.
Next year.
Kyle's the only one that wants to watch Home Alone.
Yeah.
Dude, the first 2 are good.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a meme.
Yeah, but like not a good meme.
That's 6 hours
Don't
of
know.
That's 6
Never
hours of
seen
memes
them.
that I can't tolerate.
It's like the first 2 are like classics, and then the other 3 are like Ugandan knuckles.
Hey, thanks for watching, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Merry holidays. Happy Xmas. I can't say the other one because it's offensive.
Yes, you
Merry-
can. Nobody gives a shit.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good Kwanzaa. And
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Are there any others?
Uh,
And all of you who don't celebrate anything, go be depressed somewhere else.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to comment below and let us know what my gremlin name would be. Also, who's your favorite gremlin of all the bunch, other than Gizmo? Don't be a normie.
And why was the second Gremlin better than the first?
Yeah, why did you like Gremlins 2 more than you liked Gremlins? Let us know, Godzilla 154, if you make it this far. I don't believe you do.
It's not. This one's not even long. It's only an hour.
I should have called him out in a different episode then.
Yeah.
Shoot. Well,
Quick, say something weird and out of context so I can make it the cold open.
just do that as the goal.
You click on this side of the screen to watch last week's episode.
But don't do that. Click on the other side of the screen so you can see the playlist of every episode instead.
No, don't even do that. Click that button in the middle to subscribe so that you can see every new episode of the podcast in the future.
And then go back and rewatch the Slender Man episode from the beginning because we've done this podcast consistently for months.
Yeah, we have.
And it's time to celebrate by letting you watch every episode.
Tune in next week to see us talk about Aquaman. Thanks for watching. Bye.